Yes, I've seen the release of the report this morning. It's not surprising. It's something that we have known and have been working alongside criminalised and imprisoned women for many decades now. So there's no new surprises.
So by how much has female incarceration increased? How many more women are behind bars now than previously?
Well, the increase of women and their mass incarceration has increased by hundreds of % across jurisdictions in this country. And it's not because the crime rate's gone up, it's because of the racial gendered violence of policing and the prison industrial complex, where women, particularly First Nations women and girls, are targeted to be criminalised and pipelined through our court system and through our prison system. Money needs to be spent at the front end to address all the social services and not the continuation of the evisceration of social services where governments rely on prisons as the default response for social services.
You mentioned girls there, Debbie. How many girls and how old are they in jail?
Girls in this jurisdiction and other jurisdictions across the country can be imprisoned at the age of 10 years old, which is horrifying. That's why we call the end to incarceration of children. No child should be in any cage, in any form. Children are our future, so we must support girls in our community to stay in the community and be supported in the community by their community members.
What impact does increasing numbers of women in prison, what's the impact on families? What's the social cost of rising female incarceration rates?
There's many social costs. So what we see is how children, babies are removed by the family policing system across all jurisdictions and pipelined into so-called foster care, where we pay other families to raise children, where we don't actually pay families, their own families, to raise their children. And then when those children are no longer wanted by foster families, they're actually pipelined into what's called residential care, and that's usually where their first experience of criminalisation is, due to their behaviours because of previous trauma. So where a child is acting out the trauma and may kick a hole in the wall, if that's your child, you would call the plumber. But what we see in residential care homes is they actually call the police, and that's where the criminalisation starts, and then they're pipelined through the courts, youth prisons and adult prisons. We must break this pipeline. We must block it off and support people in communities so that they're not criminalised and imprisoned.
Debbie, there's also an economic cost, of course. How significant is that?
The economic cost is huge. We know that it actually is better and costs less to support women and girls in their communities, but we have become a society where we rely on the racial gendered violence of the carceral state in all its forms. So whether it's family policing, whether it's policing, whether it's prisons, courts, and then many NGO services become part of the extension of the carceral state to undertake surveillance. We must support women and girls in the community because the impact on their children and generations that we've seen actually ensures the pipeline of future generations. So that's where we call for a moratorium of building any more cages, and particularly to release all girls and children from youth prisons around the country.
Debbie Kilroy, thank you.
Thank you.